Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Troy Clayton, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Captain Roland Padilla. We warmly welcome the family of Lance Corporal Andrew Carnegie Booth Fairweather, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Return and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Club Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Thank you. If you're able, you may be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Lance Corporal Andrew Carnegie Booth Fairweather. Andrew Fairweather was born in Arbroath, Scotland in around 1881. He was one of 12 children born to Alexander and Emma Fairweather. When Andrew was 7, his family immigrated from Scotland to Australia. They settled first in Brisbane before moving south to Wellington in New South Wales, where Andrew's father began farming a block of land. Andrew attended the local Wellington South Public School before finding work as a carpenter. In 1908, Andrew joined the permanent full-time strength of the Royal Australian Garrison Artillery. He remained as a full-time soldier with the artillery until 10th of October 1914, when he enlisted for service in the AIF. Following his enlistment, Andrew was assigned to the 3rd Australian Infantry Battalion as a private. Only 10 days later, he departed from Sydney in HMAT Euripides to join the first convoy leaving Albany in early November of 1914. Although originally supposed to sail directly to England and the Western Front, the convoy was rerouted to spend the winter training in Egypt. Andrew and the rest of the 3rd Battalion arrived at Mena Camp outside Cairo on the 4th of December 1914 and spent the next few months training in camp. Andrew remained in Egypt when the bulk of the 3rd Battalion landed on Gallipoli on the 25th of April 1915, but joined this battalion on the peninsula on the 7th of May. Andrew was wounded twice while at Gallipoli. He sustained a gunshot wound to the eye in early June and spent 6 weeks recovering in Egypt and Cyprus before returning to his unit in late July, both eyes still intact. Andrew was wounded again during the fighting at Lone Pine in early August and was initially evacuated to Mudros for medical treatment. Although the details of his wound was not recorded beyond that it caused lower back pain, it was severe enough that Andrew was evacuated to England to recover fully. He left Mudros in early November and spent the winter alternating between convalescence and treatment at Denmark Hill Hospital in England. Andrew returned to Egypt in mid-1916 to find that the 3rd Battalion had been split to provide numbers for the newly formed 55th Battalion. He joined Bravo Company of the 55th Battalion on the 21st of April 1916 and was promoted to the rank of Lance Corporal. The battalion left Egypt 2 months later, sailing from Alexandria to Marseille in late June. From southern France, the battalion traveled north by train. By mid-July, they were in the frontline trenches just south of Armentières. This area was known as the nursery sector by the men, due to the supposedly quieter introduction to trench warfare it offered. After a week of entering the trenches on the Western Front for the first time, the battalion prepared for their first major battle at Fromelles on the 19th of July. The battle was a disaster. Although in reserve, the 55th Battalion was quickly committed to the attack and eventually played a critical role in supporting the 4th Brigade's withdrawal from their positions. Between the evening of the 19th of July and the morning of the 20th, the battalion sustained heavy losses, 339 casualties in total, including 143 men missing in action. One of the missing was Lance Corporal Andrew Fairweather. He was later discovered that he had been captured following the fighting and became a prisoner of war. He was transported from outside Fromel to Juelman prisoner of war camp in Western Germany. While international laws require that prisoners of war be kept in specific conditions and treated well, food shortages and tensions between the different sides often impacted prisoners. By the time Andrew left Juelman for the prisoner of war camp at Minden, he was described as looking, quote unquote, very ill, possibly as a result of, quote unquote, very bad food. Not long after arriving at Minden, Andrew was admitted to hospital suffering from pneumonia. Lance Corporal Andrew Fairweather died of heart issues in hospital at 2 a.m. on the 16th of October, 1916. He was 35 years old. Andrew's remains were initially buried in the French prisoner of war cemetery at Minderheide, just outside Minden. A small funeral was held in his honor, attended by other members of the 55th Battalion and presided over by the Canadian Padre at the camp. In 1924, as part of the effort to concentrate all Allied prisoner of war graves across Germany, Andrew's remains were exhumed and reinterred in Hamburg Cemetery beneath an Imperial War Graves headstone. His name is also listed on the Roll of Honor on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Lance Corporal Andrew Carnegie Booth Fairweather, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor their years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We'll remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub of Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.